From the Haitian Revolution to leaders like Kwame Nkrumah and Marcus Garvey, Pan-Africanism evolved as a response to oppression and colonial divisions, such as those solidified during the Berlin Conference in 1988. I mean, 1880, 1988, 1888. Today, it continues to grow, with HBCUs reconnecting with African universities and a renewed focus on sovereignty, self-development, and societal management. Once it was a reactionary movement, it is born from shared struggles. Pan-Africanism is now an evolving philosophy shaping the African unity and independence. I'd like to also ask Dr. Isaac Sani.
I hail from Nova Scotia, and some of you may know Nova Scotia has, in Canada, has the oldest Black population in Canada. But I would also like to point out two important things. As was pointed out, Pan-Africanism rarely emerges on the ships when rebellions are taking place, where Africans across different ethnicities, nationalities unite in a common cause and a common struggle. Well, Nova Scotia also is the home of the first largest Back to Africa movement, where in 1792, in January, over 1,196 people left to return to Africa, having initially escaped from slavery, rejected British colonial domination, and returned to the continent. And our act of people engaging in the struggle against their oppression, their subordination, and exploitation. Intellectually, we also talk about the 19th century and a series of scholars and thinkers who emerge from the African diaspora, who begin to think about and theorize and to talk about how we can achieve Black liberation. And one of the points I always like to point out is what we can consider the father of organized political Pan-Africanism, i.e. someone who said, let's try and bring people together concretely into a political movement. Henry Sylvester Williams, that was his name, who organized the first Pan-African Congress in 1900. And some of you may be familiar with these Pan-African Congresses, the most famous and important being the one in 1945 in Manchester, United Kingdom, which, you had people like Kwame Nkrumah, Kenyatta, and other African luminaries participate and played a central role in African independence. Well, Henry Sylvester Williams organized the first one in 1900. And I always like to point out, he spent a year at my university in the 1890s, right? Hopefully developing those ideas and so forth. So we're in the course of, I think, of this idea of unity. People often said the 21st and probably the 22nd century will be Africa's century. We see Africa rising. We see, not only in terms of what's happening in terms of economic development, but intellectual autonomy, intellectual independence, intellectual self-determination. And I think on that particular point, to echo what Kimberly has said, Professor Nelson, I think these are critical points. And once again, Pan-Africanism is gripping the minds of people. My colleague who works with me in the Black and African Diaspora Studies program here at Dalhousie University does a lot of work on the African continent, working with the United Nations Forum on People of African Descent, and also in Latin America. And these ideas, right, from the 20th century and from beyond are now seen as being increasingly relevant for the contemporary struggles of the 21st century.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sani. Now, as we think about in 1964, Pan-African leaders in their efforts to reverse the damage done by the Berlin Conference, they met and created OAU, now renamed as the African Union. And when we look at this slide, we think about the divided 5 regions. And Kwame Nkrumah, he declared, he quoted, "You are not Africa because you were born in Africa, but that you are African because Africa is born in you." AU, as we move to the next slide, the African Union charts this way forward in reuniting and restoring the continent, and declared that all people of African origin or descent living outside of Africa as the African diaspora that constitutes the 6th region of the continent. Now, African leaders unanimously began calling on all people of African descent to come back home and participate in building the Africa we want. Now we're shaping our own narrative. We want to aggregate momentum of a movement for the harmony of people and planet in the 21st century. Ready to now introduce our discussants. As we think about the past, the present, and the future, pro-liberation, pro-self-determination, unity, and the future being omni-innovation, omni-pioneering, omni-influential. I am excited to introduce to you our panelists that are speaking with us here today. I want to introduce to you Dr. Damian Clark, Vice President of Technology Services from Alabama State University. We have bios, but we're going to have them introduce themselves in fostering this collaboration and discussion all together. But I also want to introduce Dr. Felicia Stooks from Johnson C. Smith University. She's also your Associate Professor of Computer Science and leading efforts on Pan-Africanism initiatives and broadening participation in computing with historically marginalized citizens and students. Also, Dr. Leslie Clement from Johnson C. Smith University we have here. She's the director of the honors program, Spanish and African Diaspora Seminar. She's also an academic leader embracing how to move the historical aspects of the African diaspora studies with student-centered, heritage-focused education. And we're looking forward to hearing from her today. We also have here Dr. Charles Johnson from North Carolina Central University. He's the Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of History. He's another gentleman that is leading in information science. His role with HBCUs and that diaspora and the way it plays with African history. We're looking forward to hearing from him. And we also have Dr. Siobhan Grady from North Carolina Central University School of Library and Information Sciences. She's the Associate Professor and Program Director of Information Science, big in career development, she's championing the women and minorities in STEM and AI careers as well. We have also here with us, let me see, did I cover everybody here? I think I got everybody here. Yep. And then Dr. Isaac Sani, he is representing here with us as well. And he is he's with Pan-African Council, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at Dalhousie University. He's the Associate Professor, Coordinator, Black and African Diaspora Studies. And he's big on, as you heard from him, on global Black liberation struggle. And I would love for him to share even the work that he's doing with reparations all together. So as we, I want to open up this question to all of you, and then we're going to just dive into it. I would like for us to think about how can the historical role of HBCUs in fostering political consciousness and social justice movements be leveraged to strengthen partnerships with African universities and support the vision of Pan-African unity, community, and innovation today. And I'll leave it open for anyone to share from this panel. And should I call on someone first? Or is someone
I was going to ask, excuse me, Charles Johnson, Chair of the Department of History at North Carolina Central University. Is there some way that we can get that question? Is it posted somewhere where we can see all of it?
Yep, I can drop the question right here so that you all can build off of it.
Okay.
While we're doing that, can I just check in with everybody that's on the panel and just ask if you will pop your videos on, and so that we can add you to the spotlighted space and everybody can see you. Um, so for those who are not yet in the space, it may be because I can't spotlight you because your video isn't on.
So to go back to exploring the historical context that which we've just talked about, and understanding the position with HBCUs and African universities, how can the historical role of HBCUs foster political consciousness, social justice movements to strengthen partnerships with African universities, and support the vision of Pan-African unity, community, and innovation today in your own way? Please share.
Well, okay, I'll just go ahead and jump out there. So I'm Charles Johnson. I chair the Department of History at North Carolina Central University, which was established in 1910 by Dr. James Edward Shepard in an effort to help African Americans who were in the midst of what we knew as Jim Crow segregation here in the United States to have educational opportunities. We became the first state-supported liberal arts college in 1925 and a university in 1969. The Department of History here has produced 93 graduates who've gone on to earn a PhD. And I put that out there so that you can be thinking of ways, places for your students to land and so forth. I think obviously, Kim, this is a step in the right direction. Bringing us into conversation with our colleagues overseas, having an opportunity to share what we're doing here and looking for points of intersection. I will say that NCCU, probably most HBCUs, are in a place where we have vast resources and human capacity, but not so much in material and financial support and capacity. We certainly had a potential to write grants and so forth, but our institutions are not able to give us the support that our peer TWI or predominantly white institutions often have. So I think one of the things that we can do is think about how we create synergies where we have points of strength within our respective institutions and pair those with perhaps points of weakness that are speaking to moving the agenda that we are discussing today, forward. So what that would look like is at North Carolina Central University, for example, my identifying like colleagues here, I see Dr. Grady joining us, for example, and others, who are doing this work and have this interest, getting an understanding of what expertise that we have, cataloging that so that we can share it, right? And then looking for points of intersection with our colleagues who are abroad. When we spoke, I guess initially, I indicated the importance of having some sort of mechanism for being able to carry on the work that we're starting, right? So I'm going to be taking notes extensively to make sure that I'm hearing from what my colleagues have to share, so that I can be thinking about ways that we can collaborate. Now, as it relates to this project, I thank Dr. Leslie Clement for inviting me to participate in this today. Dr. Clement and Dr. Stooks and I are working on creating a interinstitutional, interdisciplinary team talk course called AI in the African Diaspora. And I bring in expertise in African diaspora history. right? So we can look at this sort of as a model for how we can build out what we're doing. As our colleagues, brothers and sisters on the continent are listening, they can be thinking about, and I will let Dr. Stooks and Dr. Clement share more about that, thinking about how they can engage with us. Because if we're teaching a course on AI in the African diaspora, it'll be much more effective if we are in being inclusive of the African diaspora. So, really excited for this. I think that here we are, I'm wide open. This is not new territory for me in terms of doing this work. When I was at Howard University, I had the great privilege of directing the South African Research and Archival Project that examined relationships between African Americans and South Africans, principally during the anti-apartheid period. And out of that, there have been publications and museum exhibits and so forth, trying to help educate people about the long-standing relationships between African Americans and South Africans. I would add that it's very clear to me here that there's a sense of advocacy in what we do also, right? Where we are in this moment in the United States, as I think about it, we are, politically speaking, in a very, very difficult place now, and we have to be very intentional about how we are, um, I guess, applying ourselves and our focus and our energies. This kind of work for me goes so much beyond just being a feel-good exercise. The implications for, I'm a father, the implications for the future, for our young people, for ourselves, families, and so forth, are very, very significant. So these types of discussions are really important. And while I'm saying that, and have the floor, and Kim, I'll but while I'm here, let me say this. One of the things that I would like to talk about quite candidly at some point or hear about, you're talking about repatriation and so forth, is having that discussion too. If I have to develop, some sort of an exit strategy, what does that what does that really look like, right? So I'm wide open to hearing about that and discussing that as well. But thank you so much, Kim, for the opportunity to introduce myself.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dr. Charles Johnson, and bringing this in fairly succinctly all together. And I heard you bounce off with Dr. Leslie Clement and Dr. Stoots. So I'd like to yield in on both of you to kind of pick up from that point of discussion, and then bring out furthermore what the thoughts are, what you all are thinking through this conversation.
I'll jump in. Thank you, Miss Kimberly, for inviting me. I greatly appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward towards the dialogue and collaboration. And one of the things that I hope that we leave with today is an actionable plan on how we can collaborate, especially HBCUs, because I believe that one thing that we have in common with HBCUs and the African continent is there's this deficit-based language often used to discuss our institutions and the continent of Africa, and consider HBCUs as leading thought leaders. And we have our own experts. They don't have to be from Harvard, Columbia, the larger PWIs, elite institutions. And I think we have to change our mindsets and help our students change our mindsets around the globe of not wanting to go to these top Ivy League schools, but look at our Black top Ivy League schools, which I consider are our HBCUs. And so I think that in relationship to our course that we're just talking about, African diaspora, AI, and AI, there's also deficit-based language around technology, and there's a digital divide. And also we have to be vigilant of that our communities are targets of surveillance, specifically in how we are represented. or excluded from these conversations. So I think there are lots of opportunities for us to collaborate. Our project that we're teaching or our course that we're developing across two HBCUs, and we intentionally chose to collaborate with another HBCU because usually these grants want you to collaborate with a PWI and HBCU. And so we thought that it was important for two HBCUs to collaborate and co-teach these courses across two North Carolina HBCUs. So there's lots of opportunities. I would love for people on the continent, the diaspora, to come in our courses, talk to our students, create study abroad programs, and other ways that we can collaborate. And also, I would just like to take a moment, since this panel is entitled Bridging Pan-Africanism and HBCU Leadership, just to take a moment of silence to honor Pan-Africanist, revolutionary thinker, psychiatrist, freedom fighter, Frantz Fanon. So today marks 63 years since his death. He was an Afro-Caribbean leader who dedicated his life to anti-colonialism and anti-racism. And I'll pass it along to Dr. Stooks, who actually brought me in on it, in which I was on this project for African diaspora and AI. And I'm grateful for this opportunity because a lot of times the humanities and STEM do not work together. And this is something that we definitely need to continue to do as we progress.
All right, so thank you, Dr. Clement again, and Dr. Johnson. Also, thank you, Kimberly, for this opportunity to share our work and to collaborate and to discuss with our colleagues here. Again, my name is Felicia Stooks. I am an associate professor of computer science at Johnson C. Smith University. Again, it's a small private HBCU located in Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. And
exchanges on both sides. What I have seen through the work I've done since 2012 is that there's a lot of gaps between us, but these gaps can be filled if we begin not just the conversation, but going there and they coming here. I've invited some people on this call because I didn't quite know how the call was going. I appreciate Dr. Guzman inviting me, but there's so much more that I could bring to this conversation. I just didn't know, how it was set up. And so there's a lot of work being done out there that's just what you're talking about. I think I love the fact that you're connecting now because I see little, small. There's no enterprise-wide efforts for the African continent. And so I want to do say that Sister Cities International has an Africa region. And so we are in about 145 African cities in the U.S. We also have an MOU with the African Center of the Study of the U.S., which is with Wits University, and they are trying to put U.S. centers in African universities throughout Africa. So this is bringing those contacts together with the State Department. There's a State Department funded opportunity. So I know Access is on the call, and I don't know if they are able to speak, but anyway, that's what I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. And are you working also with the Institute with their trades mission? Okay, that's the same connection. So we're in that thing, and so there's some other things that we're cultivating from that way as well. But I want to go ahead and back to our panelists because we have a few questions, but we're going to come back to the hands that are raised. I just want them to answer the few questions, and then we'll take a few more. Okay. Any panelists want to respond to any of the questions?
I'll take a go at the initial one. I think that sort of dovetails. It was about curriculum and perhaps how we can partner. I have a dear friend who is at who trained at Howard University's on faculty at the University of the Free State. And one of the things that we're working on, Neil Raumpi is his name, Professor Neil Raumpi. One of the things that we're looking at is inviting our students into discussion based on the courses that we're teaching. So where, for example, I'm teaching a course on African American history, he's teaching a course on South African history. We can bring those classes together. It doesn't cost anything to do that, and we can have dialogue and discussion, very simply that way. There are clearly more robust things that we can do. But again, to me, I think it's really important that we identify, and it's been touched on again, the different expertise we have, the different needs that we have, cataloging that, not just letting it float, and then speaking to that.
Thank you, Dr. Charles.
Wonderful.
Anyone else from the panelists?
I would like to follow up on the curriculum development. I think appropriate quote is from Audre Lorde that the master's tools are not going to dismantle the master's house. So our collaboration and working together is imperative if we want our students to know about the continent from a non-deficit perspective and the African diaspora. And our collaboration efforts need to be more progressive. And so I'm grateful for the dialogue, but like someone said earlier, a lot of times we have these dialogues and there are no action plans when we leave. So I would like to emphasize that again. But curriculum development, as Dr. Johnson says, we can collaborate across now that we have the technology to do so. But we also need to instill make sure that our curriculum is centering Africa, African voices, African diaspora, and also amplifying our leaders at HBCU institutions and African institutions. And we need to make sure that our students are applying to these, to our institutions and not, again, going to the PWIs as their first choice. And I have nothing against PWIs, but I'm just, we're often left out of the conversation and we're not seen as these thought leaders and experts in our fields. And so the curriculum is very important in how we develop it. And we need a transdisciplinary perspective, not just our American, US perspective here, but we need different perspectives from scholars around the globe.
And
Thank you so much for that.
if I may add
Next,
something,
yep.
Isaac Simi from Dalhousie University in Canada, we've established the first and so far only Black and African Diaspora Studies or Black Studies or Africana Studies degree program in Canada, and it's 2024. I'd just like to build on the idea that Dr. Clement had made about the epistemic violence, if not epistemicide, that exists. And one of the things we're doing here is we're trying to build, my colleague and I, and other program, links with African universities and also universities in Colombia. There's a lot of thinking going on in Colombia and Brazil as well, right? And one of the things that informs us is not only establishing, as was pointed out, people of African descent as knowledge generators, right? But also using different pedagogies and methodologies. And so I know Fanon was mentioned, and one of the things we hope to do is host Frantz Fanon's daughter here at my university at the end of February. But this is also the 100th anniversary of his birth. But it's also Walter Rodney and his groundings with my brothers, which I would say would be now groundings with my sisters and brothers, right? That methodology, right? In which, basically you learn from the people in that sense, right? And even though we have a formalized existing sense, a body of knowledge, we sort of, utilize it, right? To help people critically think about the conditions they're living in. And, the last point I'd like to make is the Black struggle is all, yes, it's occurred in local context, but it's always been transnational, right? Okay, and global in its implications. And I think the important points here, and I think just coming through, is given the geopolitical transformations in the world, given the climate change that's facing, given the challenges of AI and so forth, we have to have this kind of interconnection and unity, right? In action, right? Because we know who gets left behind, who gets super exploited. Some people are arguing now there's a new scramble for Africa emerging as new geopolitical tectonic shifts take place. So I think it's important, and going back to what others have said, and I think it was Dr. Johnson, at the end of the day, we have to make sure this dialogue and this conversation isn't just simply a dialogue and conversation. It leads to a concrete plan of practice and concrete networks being set up. So right now at my university, we're trying to establish, at least on a one-on-one basis, links with these universities in Africa and in Latin America.
Thank you so much. Yep, I was
Kimberly,
going to say, yep,
yeah.
Robin, you were going to say, yeah, okay. You want to take that last hand, or do you want to wait to build off of that?
So Melvin's been waiting so patiently, but just to
Yes.
say we did ask for the extra 30 minutes and we're soon going to have to ask for an extra 30 minutes. It is the challenge of this amazing conversation. And this is also the reason why this is not a once off. So
No.
relational work and building of relational networks is progressive, continuous work. And we have a plan for that. Melvin, could you succinctly bring your voice to round off?
Okay, I really want to say how pleased I am to be on this call. It really is the way to clean the end of the year. Kimberly, hello. I haven't talked to you for a long time, and happy to see you and know you're doing all these great things. You know, my best friend is Dr. Julius Garvey, who is the son of Marcus Garvey, and I'm certainly going to brief him on this conversation. I had a conversation this morning with Dr. Malana Karanga, who is the founder of Kwanzaa, and we were talking about a lot of the same things. I want to say that there need to be more partnerships with organizations like mine. We work to shape U.S. policy toward Africa. We certainly can't do what you do, and I don't think you can do what we do. But this is where this partnership, it needs to be outside the university. You know, I think what you guys do is invaluable, but you also need to have contacts with the advocacy organizations that actually do work. I'm working right now to try to shape U.S. policy toward Africa with the Trump administration. And I already know who the Assistant Secretary for Africa is going to be. I'm trying to figure out what angles we can make. So the question for me is, how do we really do partner? We don't want to take anything away from what you're doing, but we think that with young people coming up, many of the young people in college and the university contact me because they want to at least work with me on programs and so forth to learn how do they get involved in shaping U.S. policy. I went through the Peace Corps. That's how I got started 50 years ago. And now I've been to 45 countries in Africa. I know many of the heads of state personally, but we need to also be working on how do we get your product, how do we get your students to be practically engaged in shaping policies and impacting, implementing U.S. policy toward Africa. I'm going to leave it there because I know you're time constrained, but I'm enjoying this very much. And thank you for allowing me to join you. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melvin. So here we see it, the power of generative dialogue in action. Can everybody feel like, ha, 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 it's coming? Like what is possible when we actually listen to each other? So it's messy, it's beautiful, and it needs time and it needs relationship. So we are going to move on.
Robin?
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry. Very, very quickly. I would like to just make a short comment.
Please, very short, Aziz.
Yeah, don't worry. Africa Voices Dialogues, you know, it's a dialogue that generates thinking, it generates ideas. We're not much focused on answers. We're much focused on connection. And I think that the connection has started already. I have seen one lady raising her hand. If we can give her a voice.
Well, if you don't mind, Aziz, because Liz, we love you. I love you, Liz, and I'm so happy to see you here. Can you pop if it's a comment, pop it into the chat so we've got it. Keep it. There's more space for voice just now. Keep it also for the breakaway room spaces. May we move into our next discussion because this, if you thought the last panel was busy, this is a very busy panel too. And so welcome to our panel of representatives from African education institutions, universities, tertiary colleges, etc., across the African continent. This is a really, really rich group of people. I've seen we don't have one or two of them, but I think we have most of them. And so welcome to each of you, Prof. Odamara Mubangezi, Prof. Ndirangu Kioni, Rashid Umil, Prof. Saad Al-Malik King, Said Benamar, excuse me, I'm not using all of your titles, Teodros Negusi, and Peter Muchiri, Tefesa Mateos, Millicent Ajay, and Jeremiah Kalai, and Maximus Sifota, I don't think is here, but if he's here, we're going to find him. Please could Andrew and Aziz, could you just help us to spotlight this incredible group of people? And what we really want to do is to pick up on something that Rhonda referenced just now. which is the reciprocity of the exchange potential. And we'd really like to step into a conversation and into a thinking space around what are you seeing that excites you, that's emerging from our continent, Africa, in terms of learning innovation, exciting new indigenous knowledge practices, and how do you see what's emerging out of the African university space as being able to relate to HBCUs and other academic institutions around the globe? What contributions do you see our continent's knowledge production, knowledge methodologies making into these spaces? So, may I ask you, Dr. Malik, if you could kick us off and just any thoughts from you?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to this August panel. I have just been taking so many notes here, trying to keep up with all the great information. So I am Asad Al-Malik with the African Center for the Study of the United States. Our colleague from Sister Cities International mentioned our organization. I just want to speak from experience as it relates to how African is, and for those who don't know, I'm an American from New Orleans, but I live here in Johannesburg. But how African institutions can impact HBCUs, particularly in curriculum and understanding. So earlier this year, we partnered with the National Association of Black Social Workers, and we brought 20 HBCU students from Howard, Morgan State, Alabama State, Xavier, and a few more here to Wits for 2 weeks, but they were all social work students, and they were so shocked and surprised by the macro approach to social work that is taught at Wits University, and which, if you know anything about social workers, that macro approach is how most Black American social workers approach social work. However, it's not the way that the curriculum or the test, that social work test, is designed. So they were so impressed with that, to understand how this kind of community-centered social work. I think that oftentimes, and I'm kind of pivoting here, I think oftentimes when we're having these HBCU conversations in the African continent, often it seems to be a one-way kind of deal. The HBCU is going to bring this and offer this. I'm at Wits University. It's ranked at like top 1% of universities in the world. I went to Dillard University in New Orleans. It cannot compare. Right? There are so many things that are taking place at Wits, so many facilities, so many partnerships, so many great academics that are coming out of that university, out of this university, that oftentimes I'm thinking Wits could help HBCUs so much, right? But I don't know if that answers your questions. I'll kind of stop there and maybe hear some more, and I want to jump in with a few other things later.
Fantastic. Thank you. So if anybody feels something compelling, just pop your hand up so that you go next. But Rashid, maybe I can ask you to take over from there, and after you, Millicent is keen.
Okay, thank you so much, Robin, for inviting me to this panel, which is really I think the conversation about the HBCU is an exciting conversation because it's in my sense, it touches on the transformative, intersection, especially between the three things that are education, culture, and innovation. And particularly, in the context of the Africa continent, reach in terms of with the diverse knowledge system and also an adapted potential. So I see that the discussion bridges the traditional, especially indigenous, practices and modern learning innovation, and highlighting the relevance not only on local communities, but also to the global education paradigms. So I would like to go a little back to especially to the approach of collaboration and the innovation. And I'm asking and how this collaboration and how this innovation can come in terms. So here I'm suggesting, in terms especially of innovation, to adopt like a new paradigm of innovation, which is open innovation paradigm. which is inspired exactly from the things that you said in the very beginning, which is the openness in terms of three main things: open mind, open heart, and open will. So with these three open, so really pushed me to say, okay, why not to think about this open innovation that is seen like a paradigm, which is inspired from the use of purposive inflows and outflows of the knowledge to accelerate internal innovation and expand to the markets in external innovation respectively. Which means here, for example, let's us consider this each, BCU like a platform in which we have to fix up which first kind of knowledge that we want to generate. And this knowledge, which is, for example, is specifically or which is stick to the African culture and what we want exactly to generate, and which segment or unit we have, for example, to target to generate this knowledge. Because what is really important too is not just collaboration and in connections. Yes, collaboration and connections, but me in my sense, I see that we have to work this collaboration by segments or by units. For example, I'm in digital management and innovation. I can be in touch with or in connections with the people from, I can say example of people from, I can say in technology or in computer science, in order to do what exactly? To develop curriculums that are taking in consideration or taking specifications of, for example, a Moroccan context and
a number of universities that have come on board. And on that platform, we also are creating specific discipline-specific networks. For example, we just created one on cosmetic products, personal skin care and hair care, consortium for researchers and practitioners. And we've also creating another one on semiconductor variations and so on. So that is one very important platform that we can use to enhance the partnership across Africa and across the Atlantic. The other one is the Alliance of Entrepreneurial Universities in Africa. It has a membership of about 51 universities now. It is growing rapidly. This one is informed by the need to address the youth bulge. We have a lot of young people coming out of our institutions, and they do face the challenges of getting employed. And the idea then is that if the universities can come together and look at, learn from each other, then it's possible to start changing the employment landscape. And we are looking at that, at the possibility of also having partners across the Atlantic who can also open up or introduce us to new business opportunities. So an important theme now running across the continent and based on the initiatives that we have is one of innovation and entrepreneurship. So I see the possibility of working with HBCUs to connect with their alumni because they are in the American business world. So it is possible to provide a bridge between the African business communities and the African youth with American businesses. We have also another interesting initiative that we just started, and that is to promote youth mobility intra-Africa and trans-Atlantic. In this particular initiative, we call it the Practical Field Lab. It is under the Origin Research and Innovation Labs. We are bringing American youth from essentially those ones of African descent back to Africa, where they can then work alongside there are students in African universities and work in communities. So you have basically three key players there. You have youth from America of African descent. You have youth in Africa, and then they go and work in the communities with the intervention of the professors. Professors also from America and professors from African universities. We call it the Practical Field Lab. We are doing this with our Africans, starting with MIT. It's led by Professor Shakanase Mavunga and myself. And we have Kenya, Ethiopia, Morocco, Zambia, and Zimbabwe now involved. We are looking at expanding that, and we aim to involve up to probably 1,000 students in a year. We started this early this year, and we've been able to involve up to 60 students. We are hoping that that's something that we can grow. In terms of the curriculum, there are many things that can actually be done. What I would like to point out here is that African universities are young. I give the example of Kenya. Up to 2002, we only had 5 universities. Within 2 decades, the number has grown to 74 universities. These universities are in the formative stages, and they are looking for partnership. And part of looking for that partnership is to have well-established universities and HBCUs from what we are running are well-established to train the human resource that is required. If we're able to have proper linkages between these very young universities and the HBCUs, then you start having this very strong and permanent relationship across the Atlantic. When we look for partners, we are little non-discriminatory. We're just looking for people who are willing to give us opportunities. So it's important, therefore, to figure out how the HBCUs can gain visibility and become better known. We go to Ivy League because sometimes they have programs and they reach out to Africa. So we need to figure out how the HBCUs can actually do that. As we speak, we are just this week, we are working with 3 HBCUs on student exchange, and we hope to be able to exchange a number of students in the coming years. Dedan Kimathi University is named after freedom, the person who led Kenya's military effort in the 1950s, and I think this is well known across the region. It's very well known in South Africa. So one of the ways we promoted that kind of linkage was to honor President Thabo Mbeki with an honorary doctorate of this university. And through that, we're able to establish a partnership with South African University. So I think there are certain things we can also start working on so that the body of the students and also the faculty in Africa are aware of the things that bind us when we talk about Pan-Africanism. We have a Heroes Garden, and in that Heroes Garden in the university, we have the bust of Nelson Mandela and also of Kimathi, and these were unveiled jointly between South Africa and ourselves. And in that Heroes Garden, we would like to have many more heroes, and we could engage in that jointly with HBCUs to start telling the story and to start providing that connection and ensuring that presence is being experienced by students on a daily basis. And this is what we have done with some of the statues that have already been erected in our Heroes Garden. We also started the Center for African Renaissance Studies. We are University of Technology, so you can imagine us going into that kind of stuff, starting a Center for African Renaissance Studies. And the whole idea of that center is to expose our students in sciences and technology, because almost we are almost exclusively a science and technology university. But we've made it mandatory that students must learn quite a bit of the history of Africa and Africans on the continent and in the diaspora. So the Center for African Renaissance Studies provides an opportunity actually to develop the kind of curriculum that you're talking about. In Kimathi, we've made it mandatory to take a minor degree. Students come here and enroll for a degree in engineering, but they also take a minor degree of up to 8 units, 8 course units, which means almost 24 credits, to understand the history
Yeah.
Mm.
there are all these opportunities that are actually possible. So I'm happy that you have created this opportunity, and indeed I think we need to figure out a way of moving this forward. My
Fantastic.
background is engineering. I'm not a historian or in education. I'm a mechanical engineer. I have been the founding vice chancellor of Denmark Kimathi University. I served for over 15 years as the head, and we've been able to curate all these things I'm talking about. And I see a similar opportunity when you are dealing with all these young universities on the continent. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry I renamed you and I put your wrong name because I didn't have it in front of me. So Prof. Kioni, if you want to rename your university properly, please forgive me. It was my
Oh,
fault.
yeah, it's massive.
Correctly
Yeah.
named. So thank you. We are really tight on time now. We still want to create space for conversation in rooms. Can we have 3 or 4 comments and contributions from the floor, and not more than like a quick less than a minute to just share what is sparked for you, what is exciting you, what are you thinking? Is there any burning question? And I'm going to de-profile us. So let's
Robin, as the community gets in, as they prepare to ask questions, prior to this group, African Forum group, we had Luz Marina Pinenda. We don't know whether she's still in the house to ask the questions which she was looking forward to ask.
Thank you so much, Andrew. So Luz, are you still here?
Yes, I'm still here. Hi. Well, it was actually more a comment because I'm from Colombia and I'm not a African descendant, but I work with people and that work in this, and I know I'm here because I know Robin, and I just wanted to please be grateful for you for allowing me to be here, and other things that I work in partnerships, and I'm really interested in this, in international cooperation and how people make connection. And I have to say that I really appreciate how your approach to making relations and reconnecting with all like your heritage, not just the one that is in your continent, but expanded all over. And I actually been sharing this with my people that like all the documents that to share and your profiles with my people that I know that works with Africans community that actually here from Colombia and other places are trying to reconnect and with their heritage. Like our culture is really highly influenced by it, by Africans because of the slavery and all the all the sequels. So yes, I wanted to be grateful and express my gratefulness to you and tell you that I love to learn about how you approach connections, because from my organization, I work in an organization that work with social emotional skills. We aim to increase our impact through connections and how to connect, because sometimes the Western world is more focused on making connections that are that are targeting socioeconomical evolution, and that's important, but that doesn't necessarily brings true transformation. So thank you again, Robin, for inviting me, and thank you all for what you're sharing.
Thank you, Liz. And yeah, lovely. How do we connect in ways that are deeply human and transformational and not merely transactional? Anybody else have something that they would like to ask, comment, something that's burning in you? Please put your hand up. We'll wait a second or two. Is there anything that emerged? Teodros.
I will be very, very brief. I agree with most of what the professor from GKT, Kione, said. I'm not going to repeat what he said, but in terms of curriculum, when it comes to learning innovation, we need to have the right curriculum. But we are also living in a globalized world where we have to think of.
Can you speak up a little bit louder? Just a little bit louder.
Okay,
or
so
leave.
we have to think of both the local market and the globalized world. We think of developing curricula for our universities. I think one of the discussants talked about decolonializing our curricula, and we are living in the 21st century where we are living in a very globalized village, I would say. So we have to think of diversifying and also think of the global world. And another issue I would like to mention is when you think of partnership, it has been said a lot, even during our discussion so far, that we can fulfill what we need. We can improve our workshop, our spaces. We can come up with the right workshops and whatever we want. But we have to also think of involving private companies that can help in innovation, in technology incubation, and change the society which are living nearby our cities. And one example that we have here in Hawassa is the Ethio Farm Lab project that we have in Hawassa University that involves private companies, universities from different parts of the world, and I think we can impact policies, and we can also transfer technologies in a short period of time, also improve the development of the country in a short period.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Paul, I see you are with us. So good to see you. So would you like to add your voice?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. Wow. I mean, this is amazing. And today really marks a great step, towards fostering collaboration between educational institutions across African diaspora, and I love it. And I love the emphasis on stronger inclusion as well on African educational institutions in this dialogue. And the partnerships, hold a lot of promise in unlocking some of the vast potentials, and shared growth around our global community, which I truly love. What I wanted to talk about, however, is how we advance the conversation, because we must not overlook the critical and persistent challenge that the issue of poverty and the urgent need to address wealth creation on the African continent. I'm from Sierra Leone, you see. So this is not just an economic issue.
I'm allowed to share today, but yes, just celebrated the 5th anniversary, actually, of the signing of a historic MOU, which, for those who don't know, OHBCUD actually had itself an MOU and linked all of the offices of the presidents across every single historically Black college and university, as well as the PBIs, those that are not, traditional land-based HBCUs, like Medgar Evers, and several others. But the key, I think, is just that we stay in touch, and just to know that, you have our support. And certainly, if as an individual, I serve as senior fellow. I've worn a lot of hats through the evolution of the, going from dream to reality, as you all are doing. So currently serve as senior fellow and one of the professors of record for the summer international distance learning program. And we are just now launching the student exchange component. Previously, the work has been very focused on the leadership of the business deans roundtable. So to the point of many of the things that came out today with regards to the need for focus on, wealth creation and poverty eradication, irrespective of sustainable development goals. That has been a key focus initially, a leading focus that is continuing to be maintained. And now the initiative that has launched, and we're going to start the exchanges in March in the Caribbean, is urban ag focus. So, with regards to growing and the planet and some of the intersectionality with, observing, researching, writing, and mitigating on the ground the effects of climate on people's lives. And still that ties back to, wealth creation and survivability and all that. So I won't keep going on and on and on. I'm, as everyone else on this call today, extremely passionate about this work. And we wish you well in the specific endeavor and the launches that are happening, and just looking forward to mutual collaboration. And to you all giving one of the presentations at the next year's UN General Assembly, which we host the side events every year to help showcase what HBCU collaborations are doing. So I guess the recording will tell Dr. Fareed that, yeah, she did say that. But it's important. Sharing the information is more important than any one entity or group or collective, trying to do it all. So we don't do that. Peace and blessings. And HBCUs all day, every day. Pan-Africanism. Yes, yes, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing. Kimberly, you carry on.
Oh, no, I'm done. I see Jewel. She's got her hand up, or did you mean to put your hand down? You spoke earlier. No, I didn't know if it came back up.
Thank you.
I think we need to give you some rest in your voice as well, Kimberly.
Yes.
Hello, you can see.
But I would love to yield the hello to
Kimberly.
whoever is sitting in your lap.
I think Kimberly got to rest. She got to rest a little bit.
I will.
I know that.
Jewel, did you want to say something again?
No, not really. I'm just listening.
Great, no problem. Your hand's just up, so I'll lower it for you. And okay, hello, Yakut. So this is our youngest Africa Voices Dialogue member and future HBCU PhD candidate. At some slightly later point in her life. Hi, my darling. So guys, thank you so much. I just do want to make a note, since we have so many wonderful academics and academic institutions, what would be really, really helpful for this collaborative is if there is a research student anywhere to be interested to help us with just data coalition, just collating data, helping us to really articulate what is coming through here. We are, all of us in this team, fairly stretched in terms of capacity, and the data management piece is something that would be massively helpful. So if anybody's keen or interested, just let us know. You can drop us a return mail when we send you the follow-up mail. I am going to just suggest that we play
a data management system on Word.
Sorry?
A data management system on Word.
Absolutely. No, this is what I'm saying. Guys, we need your help. Okay, so yes, it's all very well.
Okay, so yeah, so
system. I haven't put it on.
I'm gonna hit your DM, then we start up the conversation from there.
Fantastic. Okay, that sounds awesome.
Perfect. And Robin, did I hear Mercedes saying that she'd like to connect more and she would like to know more? Maybe this could be a form.
I think my elder is voluntolding me that I need to jump on this.
That would be good,
I'm,
Miss Davis. We like your
I'll
voice
do.
energy. We like your
Yes,
bright light.
I will do what I can. I am also in the middle of qualifying exams, but I will support where I can, sure.
There's no urgency.
So you have my information in the chat.
Wonderful.
All right.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to suggest that we sing ourselves out and play ourselves out and just say thank you again to everybody for a wonderful, wonderful experience. Kimberly, maybe if I can ask you if we can just quickly recap the next steps because I forgot to push record. And then I'm going to play this beautiful song. It's beautiful. Listen to the words. Please give me a thumbs up if the sound is coming through because I've pushed share sound, but I'm not sure that it is going to. So just I'll watch you, Kimberly, to see if the sound comes through. Okay.
I am seeing these breakouts, I am seeing these blemishes, and I'm impressed.
Don't skip out on a chance to say it with Cadbury PS.
Okay. Hey, there we go. Yeah.
We crossed Zimbabwe's border, flew over the dry fields of my homeland, coming into Joburg, the suntan swimming pools and the Soweto sheds, airports and railway stations, stranded with a ruckback and guitar. The languages and the places change, and the sky has different stars. I may be walking in the streets of a city called London, but the dust on my boots and the rhythm of my feet and my heartbeat say Africa.
Rooms, we have been sharing in the chat that what we're really eager to do is take all of the knowledge that came through from our RSVP forms, all of the incredible knowledge coming through from the chat room, from this conversation, and we'd love to create an open access available resource that anybody can add their thoughts into. It's generous, it's flow-based, it's relational. What we really want to do is create space for people to connect. So please just take a pic of the QR code, open up the form. It's not very fancy, add in details. And what we will do is we'll start to create a database of what opportunities exist for connections between the HBCUs and African universities across African universities and other African universities, and really all the opportunities to support Africanization and strengthening of African education opportunities and strengthening of these connections and bonds. So lots of encouragement just to do that. And then in terms of our next steps, we do have next steps. So this was the first event in what we are really hoping is a growing, deepening, strengthening relationship, and the opportunity to really start on a journey together that takes us a very long way. So in terms of our immediate next steps, we're planning a summit, at least we're planning a similar dialogue to this, which will take place probably at the end of March. And we really want to focus now on student and youth voice and getting their thoughts and their experiences and what they feel about this potential collaboration or the existing collaborations between HBCUs and African universities, and bringing them into this conversation so that we grow the scope and scale and potential of what's being born here. And Kimberly, then I'll hand over to you just to quickly share with us a little bit about the summit that we're planning.
Yes, so we are going to continue to carry out, like Robin said, virtual session, but following that, we are hoping to host our in-person summit on May the 26th through the 30th in Africa. We will pretty much, we have a couple of options to consider. We will finalize whether if that's going to be in Nairobi, Kenya, or Johannesburg. We are making a determination based off of the resource response and how we should go about that effort. And we should have that finalized soon, but we will be sending out some detail regarding that. But this is just to reiterate that this is just not going to be a discussion. We are very intentional about wanting to carry out, this exchange opportunity that we're doing through ideas and strategies for long-term cooperation. And we want to make sure that during our in-person summit, we're able to cultivate a path from where we started today that will allow us to share research and collaboration. It'll allow us to cultivate faculty and student exchange programs and joint research projects in which various members here today spoke about, and then ensuring that we co-author publications, and there's an opportunity for presentations to be made, workshops to be held, and we want to capacity build and make sure that we create a system goal alignment with professional development, our department, ministries, departments, agencies, and set forth a path for institutionalizing our work for sustainability. And we can leverage our resources through grant programs and make sure that this is something that we can make happen annually, so that we can not only boost what we're doing with our educational system, but also with our community. So that is our plan. And just again, thank you for being a part of us being able to lay the groundwork for all of this. And we'll look forward to being in touch with you. We are going to synthesize the data that we have captured through those that have RSVP'd and also through the session that we have held on today. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. And then just if anybody is keen to find out a little bit more, you're welcome to scan the QR code to make either of them the mailing list for all of our future Africa Voices Dialogue events and for the ongoing events for this consortium of HBCU, bridging the HBCU and African academic spaces. So that will get you onto our mailing list. If you're keen to be a little bit more intimate and chat a little bit further with this community, join our WhatsApp group. And then you're welcome, obviously, to go and check out the websites of all of these different organizations and see what's happening in them. We'd love to remain connected with you all. So thank you, and wishing us a wonderful, wonderful evening, week, and rest of this year, and a very good break. Cheers. Okay. Thank you. Let me stop there.